This is Prince Hanley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love. I want to talk to you today about economic survival, surviving the next 7 years. I'm going to talk to you about the future outlook of the economy and what to do. First, I will discuss the short-term economic outlook, then the medium-term outlook. I will discuss different aspects of the economy, where we are and where we're going. Then I will discuss the more important spiritual aspects, how it will affect you and what to do. On Tuesday, November 25th, 2008, I shared the following information, plus more, with you on the podcast satellite or the Voice of Israel podcast, all of which has come to pass. Here is what I've covered in that podcast, titled, What is Happening Now in the Economy? This is from Tuesday, last November 25th, 2008. The USA is on a crash course for collision. The recent bailouts of financial and credit institutions by the United States government are only slowing down the ultimate collision. These bailouts are analogous to foam sprayed on airport runways to enable aircraft to crash land with minimal damage. There is, however, one big difference. The landing will not be easy. There will be a collision. The bailouts are only serving two purposes. One, slowing down or delaying the crash. Two, anesthetizing the public to the unavoidable crash. Deflation may happen before rampant inflation again, or even stagflation, which is rising prices with reduction in production. Banks will probably cut interest rates to near zero, making it almost free to borrow money in order to curb the economy from sliding into recession. In the USA, the government does not worry about money for bailouts because the government just borrows it from our children and grandchildren. By the way, to strap future generations with debt from paper money that they did not borrow or that they did not incur themselves is outright thievery. But the two things that the government cannot borrow are time and energy. Because the economies of the major producers in the world are inextricably connected, at least at this time, with the United States dollar, all economies of major nations will suffer. The USA uses 25% of the world's oil, but only has 2% of the known reserves. We have for years helped Saudi Arabia with military protection in exchange for oil. When the Wahhabi Islamic fundamentalist movement overthrows the Saudi hierarchy, then the world scene will change. Today, there are about 58 countries that are producing less oil today than they have in the past. Now, I want to give you a short-term economic outlook. Listen very carefully. This year, 2009, it will appear that things are settling out on the economic scene. Hold on. The market will probably go up again in the next 3 to 6 months, at the latest by early 2010. When the market, or the Dow, goes up to between 10,000 and 11,000, and when real estate goes back up, sell out. Convert to cash and hang on to your cash. Buy gold and silver to hedge against the U.S. and other countries printing currency. You might want to go into commodities like oil and natural gas, but not past the period from late 2009 to the middle of 2010. In 2010, things will start to fall apart again. The Obama stimulus package will not be effective past 2009. The market will take a dive that is like a precipice. The Dow is now about 8,000 and may fall to below 4,000. Real estate may return to the year 2000 levels. In the past, giving out money, or what's called economic stimulus packages, has never brought us out of severe economic downturns. Two things usually get us out of severe economic downturns. war, or long and sustained tax cuts. For the next 5 to 7 years, you are in for hard times. That's after 2009. You must pray and ask God to direct your financial activities because things will worsen up through 2013 to 2015. The housing market will bottom out late 2012 to early 2013. At that time, buy real estate when it's down at its lowest. Stocks are down 40% right now in the USA, 50% in Europe, and 70% in China. If you use gold as a standard, our market is really down 78%. We are so far in debt and keep printing paper money. Bailout 1, bailout 2, bailout number 3. Currency can only be inflationary until it dies. It is inevitable that the U.S. dollar will die. So will the euro. Be very careful if you are investing in Forex trades. A new currency will evolve, a global currency, with basis on precious metals, commodities, or real estate. Remember, in the natural, not the spiritual realm, land is the basis of all wealth. We are in part A of a complete collapse of the economy. Now let me give you a medium-term economic outlook. Part B is the energy crisis. In the early 1970s, over half the globe essentially didn't use any oil. The only areas that were major oil consumers were the USA, Europe, a little of Japan, Canada, and former Soviet Union. Africa, the Middle East, and Asia didn't use any oil. China and India will be the largest consumers of oil in the world. 1/3 of Chinese now have driver's licenses, and 1 out of every 5 believe they will own an automobile in the next 5 years. China will be the largest automobile user in the world. Even if everyone switched to hybrid cars, we would still be facing a major problem because in 5 to 7 years we would still be consuming the same amount of oil due to economic growth. It will take 30 to 50 years to develop hydrogen infrastructure technology for automobiles. Ethanol and biodiesel production would only fill a small portion of what we consume today. If you want to supply 10 terawatts of energy, which is what we use today, you would have to build 10,000 of the largest nuclear power plants. And if you did that and used U-235 uranium, the world's supply would be exhausted in 10 to 20 years. So it would only be a bridge. Wind energy would only contribute a small fraction of our power supply because of its intermittency and low power density. Solar energy is the answer, but the big barrier is its cost. For example, to meet the needs of the USA alone, it would take a land area half the size of the state of California. The worldwide demand for oil right now is between 25 to 30 billion barrels a year, and increasing. Conclusion? We're back to horse and buggy, hanging out laundry, and pumping water by windmills. Our grandchildren will probably never ride in an airplane. Only 0.1% of the population will be able to afford driving an automobile or flying in an airplane. It's not money that made the world go around in this last century, but cheap energy coming from oil in the ground. Let me ask you a question. Which is more real, the financial system or the oil in the ground? Answer, the oil in the ground. The financial system is based upon petrodollars. This will trigger the next Great Depression, comparable to the Great Depression of 1929 to 1934, or greater. In fact, it may not end. Why? Because this one will be imposed by nature rather than being a speculative bubble. Even the oil we have available now is hindered by a bottleneck of old infrastructure. Most large companies tacitly take for granted that there's a cheap supply of energy from oil. However, when that changes, the stock market crashes. The companies are overvalued. Every day we use 2 billion more barrels of oil than we produce. Caution, At the intersection where energy impacts the economy, in other words, Part B collides with Part A, we will be at the start of Part B, the last part of a complete economic collapse. And now for your apparent solution. Notice I said apparent. This is where the false Messiah, the New World leader, steps in. A man of peace and change, a man of great oratory. He will be the greatest enemy the nation of Israel has ever known, and the greatest enemy you have ever known. When the coming world leader, who will be appointed by the New World Order, takes over, he will make a treaty, a covenant with Israel for 7 years. Today, in addition to disease and famine issues, the leaders of the dominant nations are concerned with 3 primary factors. Number 1, attaining peace among nations and ethnic groups. Number 2, guaranteeing the flow of oil. And number 3, stopping terrorism and conflict in the Middle East, especially between Israel and the Palestinians. Then comes the grand scheme, the global one world government, one world money system, and one world religion. This world leader will make a covenant with Israel for 7 years. In exchange for land concessions, remember land is the basis of all wealth, the false prophet will allow Israel to build her temple on or near the Temple Mount. This coming world leader who rides into office on a platform of peace and change will be worse than Hitler in Nazi Germany. He will first appear as a man of peace, a Messiah with answers for the Middle East and the world situation. But remember what the Bible warns. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. The Islamic and Palestinian hatred of Israel will bring pressure upon Israel to sign an accord, the architect of which will be the leader of the EU Islamic New World Order. He will agree to protect Israel in exchange for their signing this treaty. This accord will be a 7-year treaty, a unification document, allowing Israel to build her temple on or near the Temple Mount in exchange for land and Jerusalem compromises. This will usher in a time of great persecution for the Jewish people, 42 months after the signing of this accord. Read in the Tanakh, Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 6 and 7, and Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. The focus of the New World leader will then turn from protection of Israel to persecution of Israel. What to do? If you're still here at that time, make sure that you know the Messiah of Israel personally, Yeshua HaMashiach. But if you do not know him by them, you probably are too late, because the Bible says a strong delusion will be upon those who have rejected Messiah previously, and who, for the sake of the economy, receive an identification in their right hand or forehead. No one can buy or sell unless they have this ID. It will be a mark, or the name of the New World leader, or the number of his name. With all the tattoos in the world today, this will present no problem for people. Or if it's an implant, that'll be no problem either, because many people will accept the RFID by that time, the substitute for today's Universal Product Code. At any rate, there will be 3 choices according to a person's personal preference. I trust this information I've shared with you will help you now and in the future. This has been your friend, Prince Handley, coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai.